If you're thinking of buying a Toyota Tacoma, think again. Even though the Toyota Tacoma presents itself as the best mid-sized pickup truck out of the bunch, the truth is far from black and white. Because of its mediocre engine, limited practicality, and other very evident problems, the Tacoma might not be a good proposition for you. So before you go ahead and buy it, please look at these 6 reasons why you should avoid the Toyota Tacoma. Number 6. The engine is very underwhelming. One of the biggest disappointments of the new Toyota Tacoma was its engine. Gone is that beautiful powerhouse of a naturally aspirated 3.5 V6, which was the main power plant of the previous generation. And in its place, we've now got a 2.4-liter Turbo 4. Now sure, having a turbocharged engine is pretty practical, as you generally tend to get quite a bit of power and torque, while also saving quite a bit of MPG compared to a larger displacement engine. And while the power and torque part are true, seeing how the 2.4 Turbo 4 produces practically the same amount of horsepower at its highest as the V6 does, the MPG is where we've been completely struck at awe. You see, the old Tacoma did 21 miles per gallon combined, which was pretty good for a V6 powered pickup truck that uses a 6-speed automatic gearbox. Contrary to this, the new Tacoma, which uses a much more sophisticated gearbox, has smaller displacement and has been practically bred to do good MPG, and it manages to beat its predecessor by only 2 miles per gallon. That's right, the new Tacoma does only 23 miles per gallon combined. Would you trade all that simplicity, versatility, and traditionality for an untested engine that isn't even better than its predecessor on paper? Yeah, no thanks. We'd rather pass. Not to mention that because it's an inline 4, it'll always run considerably rougher than the V6, especially at higher RPMs. And since you've got a turbocharger too, higher RPMs are where you'll sit for the majority of time. Toyota dropped the ball on this one, but we can't fault them too much. Practically every other car manufacturer, save for Nissan, is either heavily pushing the trend of downsizing their engines, looking at you Ford, or has already replaced their bigger engines with smaller ones, such as the GM's Chevy Colorado and GMC Canyon. However, this next fault is not something that can be overlooked easily. Number 5. Truck bed leaves a lot to be desired. Another big problem with the Toyota Tacoma is how pathetic its bed size is. It's practically the worst in its class, clocking at a length of 60.5 inches. Compared to its peers, this is very underwhelming, as every other vehicle in this segment comes with a longer bed. Heck, the only thing we need to mention is that even the Honda Ridgeline has a bigger bed, 55 inches in length, and that vehicle can only barely be called a pickup truck. This is simply unacceptable for a vehicle of this class and size. Even the Ford Maverick, which, dare we remind you, costs a fraction of the Tacoma, has a similar truck bed length. Now sure, the Tacoma also offers an extended bed for the crew cab, and that one is decently sized, coming in at around 6 feet. However, the Tacoma's extended cab option is limited to the 5-foot version of the bed, which isn't a good look for a truck that's supposed to be work-oriented. In addition, even though the Tacoma, as standard, comes with a smaller 5-foot bed, it's not like Toyota has tried to make their interior any more spacious than its competitors. Quite the opposite. Number 4. Interior space isn't particularly good. Now hear us out. We're not saying that the interior itself isn't good. It is. Yes, there are a few squeaks and rattles here and there, but the quality is surely better than the rattle fest that is the Colorado or the Jeep Gladiator, nor is it nearly as boring as the Ford Ranger. However, the interior does leave a lot to be desired in terms of space. Now, credit where credit's due. The front seats are pretty okay. Sure, the center console does eat up a fair bit of legroom compared to the previous generation. However, almost all new vehicles have that problem, and it isn't that big of a deal, honestly. What is a big deal, though, is the rear legroom and headroom. The Tacoma's rear seats are awfully cramped, even with the crew cab. The rear legroom is just shy of 34 inches, which is 3 inches less than that of the Mazda CX-30, and that's a subcompact crossover SUV. Headroom isn't much better, coming at 38.4 inches, which is practically identical to that of the aforementioned CX-30. The extended cab fares much worse, as its legroom is reduced to an abysmal 24.7 inches, making it suitable only for children and smaller adults. Toyota should have thought out those rear seats a bit more. Number 3. Towing capacity is among the worst in its class. Again, we're just flabbergasted at how bad the Tacoma is at being a truck and doing regular trucking stuff. Seriously, who's gonna buy a pickup that's so severely worse than its peers in terms of towing capacity? For example, the maximum towing capacity of the Toyota Tacoma is just 6,500 pounds, which is 1,000 pounds less than both the Ranger and the Gladiator. It's also significantly less than Colorado and the Canyon. It's on par with the Nissan Frontier, and the only truck that can tow less is the Honda Ridgeline. However, that is to be expected. However, we must understand why this is the case. You see, unlike its peers, which utilize leaf springs through and through, the Toyota Tacoma is mostly equipped with coil springs. All but the entry-level extended cab versions come with coil springs as standard, which means that the truck simply isn't as good for towing and overall truck work as one would expect. That said, it also means that it is much better than its peers in terms of both ironing out bumps as well as being much more rigid and consistent on twisty roads. Overall, even though we'd like the Tacoma to be more capable, we're more grateful that it is as comfortable as a truck can be. That said, this next issue is something that we must condemn Toyota for. Number 2. Several reliability issues already encountered. Let's be honest. You buy a Toyota over any of its peers, not because it's a better looking or a more comfortable truck, but because it is more reliable than anything the competition can offer. Well, we'll have to disappoint you, because the Toyota Tacoma, as much as we'd want it to be, simply isn't nearly as reliable as one would expect. You see, earlier this year, Toyota issued a recall for the Tacoma, which was caused by its rear axle literally falling apart. Because of subpar quality control in manufacturing, the bolts that hold the rear axle together tend to loosen up, which is only amplified by the welding debris that hasn't been removed. As a result, the truck could lose balance, which leads to the driver losing control and probably crashing. In addition, the new 2.4-liter engine is also held under a huge question mark, as it has a lot to prove because it is a new engine altogether. And considering how bad Toyota's new engines are, looking at you, Tundra V6, its future might be problematic. In addition to this, the quality of the truck has also been subpar. Panel gaps, squeaks, and rattles, and mismatched interior and exterior panels are given, which are all the result of bad manufacturing ethics and horrible quality control. But this isn't the biggest issue for the Toyota Tacoma. Number 1. Price markups are horrendous. Let's be honest here. Even with all of the issues, the Tacoma will remain the best-selling midsize pickup truck and the king of this segment, because, all set aside, it still is the best jack-of-all-trades truck. However, the dealers know this. They know how much people love the Tacoma, and they knew that the new generation of it would allow them to cash in on the hype. As a result, many dealerships have decided to mark up the prices of the new Tacoma, and by a lot. You see, we understand that dealerships also need to make money, which is why we get a certain level of dealer markup. However, asking $10,000 more on a $40 to $50K pickup truck is just unacceptable. Seriously, how can anybody even think of buying a Tacoma for that amount of money, as you can already get a well-equipped F-150 at that price point? And the worst thing is that we simply can't do anything about the pricing. That's the way of the market, and that's how it has always been. The Tacoma is a new model, meaning that it is overhyped now, and it'll take quite some time for people to stop drooling over it. Some people are going to overpay for it in the meantime, though, so be sure that you're not amongst those people.